question, definitely. Okay, so shall I start from the beginning, or okay, we'll continue. Let's talk about who we are, and who we are is basically a very big question. But for the purposes of this presentation, I will present to you a framework that will help us understand what is going on and why we are afraid of public speaking and what to do about it. Right? Basically, we're constructed of two different parts: the constructed self, which is basically the self that told you, how about we become a Toastmaster? How about we give a speech? How about we become better at public speaking, right? It's the expansive self, the part of the self that wants to experience new things, to do new things, to go out of the comfort zone so that we keep learning and expanding, right? And then we have this other part of ourselves that we can call it the destructive self. There's definitely many ways to call it, like inner critic, that whenever we're trying to do something that is out of our comfort zone, will create a lot of barriers for us to do that. A lot of stress, a lot of thoughts, a lot of negative thinking. Who do you think you are? What are you doing? You're going to fail. You're terrible at that. It's going to be the worst thing that will happen to you, right? And this destructive self that we all have within us, is basically coming from experiences we've had in the past, from societal and cultural norms. I mean, there's different cultures that believe different things, and they have their own belief systems, our own family and how it was structured. But let's say, and I will ask you a question here, you can raise your hand if you've ever had an experience where, let's say in primary school, sometime when you were a child, you said something and people laughed at you, or you were ridiculed, or it was a traumatic situation, right? I definitely had experiences like that. And I've had several of them. I remember many of them. And I remember that with each one of them accumulating, like when I was 5, I was in kindergarten, and my kindergarten teacher, whenever I spoke up without being given permission, she would put me in detention. Of course, I didn't like that, right? And then when I was 7 years old, I replied to a question of the teacher in a way, like what I said was true. And I remember I was explaining recycling, and everybody laughed at me because they didn't know about recycling. So I decided from these experiences that it's not safe to speak up. It's not safe to tell my opinions. It's not safe to speak to many people. And since then, I remember I took a turn in my life, and basically I went through my life trying to be as silent as possible, as invisible as possible in situations where many people were involved. So I wouldn't speak up. I wouldn't dare to tell my opinion unless it was very, very, very specifically judged and criticized, and I knew it was very true, right? So that was not possible. So I would lose a lot of chances of speaking up, telling my opinion. I would know things, but I wouldn't share them. And this continued, right? So we all have situations like that. We all have situations where we learn that maybe speaking up, not so safe, not so good. So it's better to stay silent. right? So it's important to take a look at those experiences and understand them, what was going on there, what happened, what you decided when this happened. I decided it's safer to stay silent. And I really, really had to know everything that anyone could tell me, could tell me against what I said. So I wouldn't speak up by definition, it's impossible. So we understand that experiences basically build our belief systems around public speaking, right? So let's talk about what are the things we can do practically and think of in order to stop this inner critic, the destructive self, from disrupting our own path to getting better at public speaking, right? Let's talk about meditation and visualization. Basically, with meditation, I mean any practice that involves sitting down with yourself, or maybe doing something that, like walking can be a meditation, as long as you're with yourself, right? Stopping the time, stopping the hustle, because all of us, we have very busy lives. We hustle, we race into a rat wheel that never stops. We have so many things to do. We basically, our nervous system accumulates more and more stress within it, more and more things to have to control, right? And meditation gives us this space of letting go of the need for control, calming down our nervous system. It could include prayer. It could include asking for support from a higher being, God, your higher self, whoever you speaks to you the most. Breathing exercises, being able to stay with yourself and your emotions. Stress is not necessarily bad, right? We can see what are the emotions that we have within ourselves. And visualization as a practice can help us get ready for the stage, because basically our brain cannot understand the difference between what we visualize and what is happening in reality. So if we close our eyes and visualize ourselves on stage, giving an exceptional speech, receiving the admiration and the applause from other people, doing great, receiving good feedback, and create emotions with people, whatever each person wants. The more we visualize that, the more basically our brain is able to recreate those emotions, the tranquility, the peace, the confidence, that on stage when we're happening to be on stage, right? So visualize yourself being on stage delivering a speech. Before you do that, visualize yourself saying the words, and this will help you calm down your nervous system and also be more ready when this time comes. Is that clear? Okay. Now, meditation is something we can do in our lives outside of the Toastmasters meetings, right? What happens just before the speech? Let's say it's 6:30 and by 6:45 you have a speech in Anatolia Toastmasters Club and you are very stressed, right? It happens. What you can do right there is start taking slow and conscious deep breaths. And this will bypass the stress mechanism of or fight or flight. Basically, this is like a small lesson in physiology. Our bodies can be in either of two states. One is fight or flight, where the nervous system is really heightened and we are scared and we're stressed, or rest and relaxation state, right? Where we are calm, peaceful, and we project that confidence. The breathing, when we do conscious, deep, slow breathing, we force the body to go into the rest and relaxation state. We force it. There is no way you will breathe slowly, and you can start experiencing that in your life. When you're stressed, you breathe from the chest and you're like something like that, or you're not breathing at all. That happens too. Like you forget to breathe. So when we go into calm breathing, slow breathing from the belly, and I invite you to actually see where you're breathing from, because most people breathe from here, from the chest, which means that we raise the shoulders and the chest. This is what I would say at least 90% of adults do. This is stressful breathing. Breathing from the belly will take some practice, but believe me, it will change your life. It's the simplest, most useful tool you can use to calm your nervous system down and bring more relaxation in your everyday life. When you accomplish to only breathe through the belly 24/7, you will be a lot calmer in your life, in every situation. So before you go on stage, practice that. Take some time, maybe close your eyes if you can do that. If you can't, just breathe consciously. Start breathing intentionally, slowly. Slow down your breath. Make it come in, make your breath come in and out through your belly. And it will do the trick. Believe me, it will do the trick. After a few breath cycles, you will be able to do that easier. And of course, the more you do that, if you intentionally end up doing that during the speech instead of the shallow breathing, you will have a better voice expansion, and you will be calmer. You will be able to do your pauses. You will be able to remember what you want to say, and you will have more fun with it. And then it's important to change our perception around public speaking, especially here in Toastmasters, right? No one, and I say no one here wants you to fail. Nobody is here to see you fail in your speeches. Nobody is here to judge you or criticize you in a bad way. And if they are an exception. You don't need to care about them. Let that go. And also remember that failure brings you one step closer to success. So what? You failed. What if it doesn't go well? So what? Believe me, nobody will remember your speech in a week from now. Nobody. You will only be the one who remembers, oh my God, I failed. I should probably don't do that again. Maybe I shouldn't sign up for a speech ever again. And one of the most brilliant practices that we did in improv, it's like improv theater, that trainings that I have attended, was that whenever somebody, like whenever we were in a state where we couldn't find something to say, or we lost our train of thought, or we said something that just didn't work with the interaction with other people, we said, we raised our hands, said, I failed, and everybody applauded. It was like, yay! Because that will train you to be okay with failure. Honestly, so what? Right? You can keep telling that to yourself. What if I fail? What happens? So what? It's not that big of a deal. And then I think for everything we do, in order for us to have somewhere to get to that is more important from where we are now and our fears and our stresses and our anything that goes into our destructive mind, is to know your why. It's to know why you're here. What do you want to achieve? For me, when I got into the point where, like, for, I don't know, 20 something years, I was trying to be invisible. I was preventing myself from speaking up. I would go out with many people for coffee, even with friends, and I wouldn't say a word. Believe me, I was the shyest person in the world. I would blast when people talk to me. It was difficult for me to speak up. So when I decided to have my own business as a coach, I realized that this is a big issue that I have. It's a big problem. So whenever somebody asked me, what do you do? It was like I had a stroke. I'm a coach. And I was, inside me, I was praying that, please, I hope they don't talk to me. I did that. I was that person. But inside me, this constructive voice was saying, you could do it. Yes, try that. Like, go to Toastmasters, find a way to speak to the public, find a way to train yourself. So my why was really important because it was tied to the success of my business. It was really important for me to become better at public speaking. And it's really important for me to become even better and even better and even better and even better. So I will keep on learning. And it's never 100% easy. I'm always stressed when it comes to giving speeches. There's always some percentage of stress in there. It's lower than the first time where everything was trembling and I was sweating and my voice was trembling and I was like, it's better. But what guides me is the fact that I really want this. I really want to do it and enjoy it on the way, right? Enjoy it, because especially the Toastmasters community is a safe space for us to do that. So I invite you to take a look at your own personal reasons on why you're here and make sure you remind that to yourself, because your why is way more important than anything else. Any judgment, any criticism, anyone that will look you in a weird way, you're here for you. You're here to convey a message, say something, share something, enjoy, have fun, make friends, become better at what you want. Keep going back and referring to your why. Why are you here? And why is that important to you? And of course, there's no bypassing of practice. There's nothing, no meditation, no visualization, no breathing that will do the trick as much as practice does. So remember that you will get better, even if sometimes it feels like you're getting worse. The more you practice, the more you show up, the more you take roles, the more you do speeches, the more you raise your hand for table topics, become an evaluator, whatever you do, the more practice you do, you will become better and it will become easier and easier. It's like training a muscle. When you go to the gym for the first time, it will hurt a lot. It will be very uncomfortable. It will be very difficult. And then a month later of going to the gym like 3 times a week, you realize you are like, oh, that's a lot easier. I'm not in pain anymore. And this is what happens with public speaking too, basically. At the beginning, it feels a little bit painful, but we want to do it because our why is big. So to wrap up, I would suggest you do some homework. Try to identify your own personal fears about public speaking. What is it that you say to yourself? And then ask yourself if that's important, if it's true, right? Then practice breathing exercises, meditations, prayers. Find a mentor that can support you and you can look to them when you're giving a speech so that you feel better if you're very stressed. And of course, practice, practice, and practice. Thank you. That's all from me. And I hope I get questions from you if you have any.